I am Linda Carter, 51 years old, and as I sit here on a quiet morning in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I wonder how my story will sound to strangers. Sometimes, the pain is easier to share with those who know nothing about you. The year was 1997. The summer sun filtering through the stained glass windows of St. House, Agnes Catholic Church. My dress, vintage silk, ivory with tiny pearl buttons pulled around my ankles like a memory from another woman's life. I was about to walk down the aisle for the first and only time. For years, I believed this moment would heal the wounds of my childhood, would finally make me whole. I thought that after all the loss, after all the years of fighting to be seen by my own father, I would finally belong. But I was wrong. It happened less than 3 hours before the ceremony. My bridesmaids Angela, my childhood best friend, and my cousin Emily were fussing with my veil in the rectory. Rose was there too, clucking over details and trying to calm my racing heart. The phone in my hand buzzed. A blue-lit relic from the early days of cell phones. I glanced at the screen, expecting a message from the florist or perhaps my soon-to-be husband's mother. But instead, I saw my father's name. My hands shook. I still remember the message word for word. I can't walk you down the aisle. Mary's law school gala is too important to miss. I'll try to come for the reception. For a long, stunned moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest was a locked box, and someone had thrown away the key. My father, my only living parent. My rock, since my mother's death wasn't coming. Not to the ceremony. Not for the vows. Not for the first dance or the walk down the aisle I had dreamed of since I was a little girl. He had chosen, once again, my little sister, Mary. Mary, the family star, the chosen one, the future lawyer with all the promise of our family's name. My phone slid from my hand and clattered to the wooden floor. Everyone in the room turned to stare. Angela rushed to my side, her dark eyes wide with concern. Linda, honey. What happened? She asked, her voice trembling. I couldn't answer. I felt as if I'd been cracked open. All the old scars from my childhood suddenly burning. I remembered every small moment, my father missing my high school graduation for a conference, forgetting my birthday when Mary got accepted to Yale, praising Mary's achievements as if my own barely registered. But I'd always told myself, it'll be different when I get married. He'll be there for me then. This is too important to miss. I was wrong. Rose's hands, strong and warm, gripped my shoulders. You listen to me, Lynn, she said, using my childhood nickname. You don't let that man steal your day. You hear me. This is about you, not him. But all I could think was, why wasn't I ever enough? The air in the room grew heavy. The sunlight through the window suddenly cold. The church bells tolled outside, their joyful clang mocking the ache inside my chest. Angela's voice cut through the silence, steady and sure. We're not letting him do this to you. Family shows up. We're your family now. That word family echoed in my head. What did it mean if the people who were supposed to love you most always put you second? Somewhere, in the background, my cousin Emily started to cry. She had always idolized my father and Mary, too. The room was a storm of confusion and pain. And then, suddenly, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a call, not a message. The screen flashed Rose O'Hara, our family lawyer. I answered, barely able to speak. Linda, darling, I just spoke with your father. I know what he's done. I want you to come by the office tomorrow. There's something you need to see. Something your mother left for you. My heart skipped. My mother. Yes. Love. She wanted you to have this on your wedding day. No matter what. I felt the tiniest flicker of hope. Angela squeezed my hand. You're stronger than you think. Linda. And you're not alone. Not today. Maybe she was right. Maybe this wasn't the end of my story, it was just the start of a new chapter. I wiped my tears, stood tall, and looked out the window at the gathering guests below. The dress still fit. The church was still full. And the world kept spinning, even if my father refused to walk me down the aisle. Right here. In this moment. I want to ask you something. It's funny how the biggest wounds in your life rarely come all at once. They creep in over the years. Small enough at first to brush aside. Until one day you look down and realize you've been bleeding for decades. Growing up in Minneapolis in the late 70s and 80s, I used to think my family was like any other. My mother, Nora, was the backbone, Irish roots. Quick laugh. Hands always busy. She died suddenly when I was 10. A heart attack. She was only 38. After that, it was just me, my father Thomas, and my little sister Mary. Dad did his best. At least, that's what people told me. He was the first in our family to get a college degree, working his way up from janitor's son to a respected city attorney. The neighbors saw him as an upright, God-fearing man who worked hard and carried the weight of raising 2 girls alone. But behind closed doors, his grief made him distant, sharp-edged. And though I didn't have the words for it then, angry at the world. Especially at me. Maybe I reminded him of my mother. I had her green eyes. Her stubborn streak. Mary, 3 years younger, was the golden child, blonde curls. Blue eyes. Delicate like a porcelain doll. Even as a kid, she knew how to make people love her. Teachers adored her. Our father doted on her. Me, I was expected to be strong. Take care of your sister. Lynn. Don't make trouble. Those early years blurred together in my mind. School, church, chores, and trying desperately to please my father. I'd set the dinner table exactly the way Mom had taught me. I'd press his work shirts, even though I burned my fingers more than once. Sometimes, he'd smile and pat my head. Most days, he was too tired or too preoccupied to notice. The first clear memory of being left behind happened when I was 13. I'd spent weeks preparing for the citywide spelling bee, waking up early to quiz myself with flashcards. On the morning of the finals, I wore my best dress and waited by the window, looking for my father's Buick. He never showed. Mary had a dance recital that day, and he said, "Your sister's counting on me." He handed me a bus token and left. That should have been the clue. But at that age, you cling to hope. I walked myself to the event, won second place, and came home to an empty house. The certificate hung on the fridge for a few days before it disappeared, replaced by a newspaper clipping about Mary's ballet performance. Those things add up. Every birthday party I planned for myself. Every science fair where my ribbon was barely acknowledged. Mary was always the one with promise, the scholarship student, the future attorney. Dad's dream come to life. He'd beam at her report cards. "That's my girl, Mary. You make the Carters proud." When I brought home straight A's, he just nodded. "Good job." Did you help Mary with her math? By high school, I'd mastered the art of being invisible. I joined the library club and wrote for the school paper, quietly collecting awards, quietly taking care of Mary when Dad worked late. I watched from the sidelines as my sister's world grew larger, better classes, private lessons, trips to academic competitions. I was her shadow. And most days I convinced myself that was enough. Even holidays had their own cruel symmetry. Christmas morning, Mary would unwrap a new bicycle or gold locket, while I got books or a sweater 2 sizes too big. You like to read? Right, Dad would say distractedly, his attention already on Mary's shrieks of joy. I remember the year I turned 16. I begged Dad to let me take driver's ed so I could help run errands or take Mary to practice. He shook his head. It's not safe. Maybe next year. 3 months later, he bought Mary her first car, a cherry red used Saturn. For her 16th birthday. Mary never let me forget it. Either. She'd lean against the car in the driveway, smirking. Dad always says you're too responsible. Linda. I'm the fun one. Our extended family played into the drama. 2. Rose, my mother's sister, did her best to even the scales, quietly slipping me little gifts, letting me stay at her apartment during summer breaks. But even she couldn't fix what was broken. When I finally graduated high school, 3rd in my class, 2 academic scholarships, and a college acceptance letter, my father skipped the ceremony to take Mary to a regional mock trial. You know how important this is for her future, he said, not even looking up from his legal briefs. All these memories rushed back to me in the bridal suite. Years later, as I tried to explain to Angela and Emily why I wasn't surprised by my father's betrayal. It's always been like this, I whispered. I just thought maybe this time would be different. Angela hugged me fiercely. Your worth isn't measured by anyone who can't see it. Not your father. Not your sister. She was right. Of course. But when you're raised on crumbs, you learn to call it a feast. And deep down, I still wanted my father's love. Or maybe I just wanted to stop feeling like a ghost in my own life. I see now so much of who we become is written in the silences. In the moments when the people we love choose someone else over us. But what none of them realized, what not even I suspected, was that my mother had left something behind. Something that could change everything. And it was about to come to light. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family, you know there's a particular kind of pain, a deep, echoing ache that makes you question not just their love, but your own worth. That's what washed over me the weeks leading up to my wedding day. As my father's excuses grew from small irritations into gaping wounds. It started 3 months before the ceremony. I still remember the warm Sunday afternoon at Dad's apartment. Mary had just received her acceptance letter to Harvard Law, and the whole family gathered for a celebratory dinner. Dad beamed as he carved the roast, bragging about his brilliant girl and her future. I tried to catch his eye, but he barely glanced my way. During dessert, I announced my wedding date. I thought, maybe for once, this would be about me. He smiled, distracted. Of course, Linda, we'll make it a day to remember. Mary, lounging at the other end of the table, didn't even look up from her magazine. A week later, Mary dropped her own bombshell. Her law school was throwing a gala to honor new scholarship recipients scheduled for the same day as my wedding. I could feel my stomach twist. But I kept calm. Dad, you can still make both. My ceremony's at 2 o'clock. Her event starts at 7. The drive between venues is less than 40 minutes. He waved a dismissive hand. We'll work it out. Family comes first. Linda. But whose family? From that day on, his commitment to my wedding unraveled. A week. Another excuse. There might be traffic that Saturday. Mary needs support. This is a big moment for her. It's just bad timing. Honey, maybe we can move something around. Every time I heard maybe, I felt myself slipping further away from hope. Angela noticed it first. He's hedging. Lynn, you deserve someone who shows up. Don't let him ruin this for you. I tried everything, offered to send a car, rearranged the reception timeline, even asked Rose to call him and plead on my behalf. Mary just smiled, satisfied, watching the drama unfold. One afternoon, she called me, voice dripping with condescension. Linda, you can't expect Dad to be everywhere at once. My future actually matters for the Carter name. I bit my tongue, the old bitterness returning. It's my wedding. Mary. One day. That's all I ask. She laughed. Oh. Please. You knew he'd pick me. I'm his legacy. You're just the opening act. That single sentence seared into my heart. A week before the wedding, Dad called and left a message. I'll do my best, honey. But if I'm late, just start without me. I'll be there for the important parts. His voice was tight, like he was already somewhere else. Angela was furious. That's not what a father does. He's letting her play him like a fiddle. As the wedding drew closer, I tried to focus on the details, the flowers, the seating chart, the vows I'd written late at night when the house was silent. My fiancé, Micah, noticed my distracted state but didn't push. He knew family wounds ran deeper than any apology could reach. Then, the morning of my wedding, everything collapsed. We were gathered in the bridal suite, laughter and perfume mingling with nerves. I tried to enjoy the ritual, my friends toasting with sparkling cider, Rose pinning the borrowed brooch from my mother onto my dress. Angela checked her watch. 2 hours. Lynn, are you ready? My phone buzzed. I saw Dad's name and a wave of anxiety washed over me. The message was short. I can't walk you down the aisle. Mary's gala is too important. I'll try to come for the reception. Love. Dad. That's when the dam broke. I heard my own voice. Hoarse and raw. He's not coming. He picked Mary. Again. Emily froze. Mascara wand in midair. Angela slammed her glass onto the vanity. Are you kidding me? After everything you did for him. I stared at my reflection. For a second, I didn't recognize the woman in the white dress, eyes rimmed red, mouth set in a hard line. For a lifetime, I'd tried to be the dutiful daughter, hoping he would finally see me. But in the end, his choice was clear. The phone rang again. This time from Uncle Joe, my mother's brother. He had heard from Dad and wanted to be there for me. I'm coming. Lynn, I'll walk you down the aisle if you want. You deserve better than this. For the first time, I let myself cry. Not out of weakness, but out of relief that anyone still believed I mattered. Mary texted me, almost gleeful. Don't make this about you. Linda. Dad made his choice. You should have expected it. Her words felt like a slap. For years, she'd played the victim, the star, the one who needed protection. Now, she reveled in my pain. But what they didn't know, what none of them could have guessed, was that my mother had left a secret behind. One that would turn the Carter family legacy upside down. And I was about to discover it. When you're pushed to the edge by the people who should have protected you most, something inside you snaps. That morning, standing in a pool of sunlight and broken dreams, I felt it happen. The numbness faded, replaced by a slow, rising fire. I had spent my life waiting for my father's approval, always one step behind Mary's shadow. But I wasn't a little girl anymore. Angela was the first to speak after my sobs faded. "Linda, don't you dare let them break you. He made his choice. Now you make yours." Rose squeezed my hand, her weathered face trembling with anger. "Lynn, your mother would never have stood for this. She always said you were the one with her heart. She left you more than you realize." Her words echoed in my mind, mixing with the lawyer's mysterious call earlier. "Rose O'Hara said there's something from Mom for me. Something important," I whispered, voice shaking. "She wanted me to have it today." Angela straightened, her eyes steely. "You want me to drive you to Rose's office right now? We've got time. The wedding's not for another 90 minutes. If your mom left you anything, it's meant for a moment like this." He hesitated, glancing at my reflection, my dress still pristine, my face raw but alive. "Let's go," I said. We rushed down the back stairs, Rose waving away the shocked faces of guests gathering early in the church. I sat in the back seat as Angela drove, Rose beside me, humming old Irish hymns. My heart pounded as we pulled up to the red brick office building. Rose O'Hara was already waiting outside, her gray hair pulled back, eyes bright with urgency. She ushered us in, shutting the door on the bustle of the street. "Linda," she said, "your mother knew you'd need this one day. I was instructed to deliver it on your wedding morning if, and only if, your father refused to walk you down the aisle." She placed a thick, cream-colored envelope in my hands. The handwriting my mother's made my breath catch. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter, a copy of her will, and a notarized addendum. I read aloud as my voice wavered. "To my daughter Linda, if you are holding this, your father has failed you in a way I always feared. I want you to know, above all else, that you are worthy of love and respect. This family's legacy should never rest on the shoulders of one child. You are my legacy too." Included with this letter is a legal document, a codicil to my will, witnessed by Rose. It states that the Carter home, the family trust, and the contents of our joint safety deposit box will pass to you alone if, on your wedding day, your father is absent from the ceremony. If he is there, everything is split equally. This is not meant to punish, but to remind your father what matters. All my love. Mom. The air went still. I looked up at Rose. "Is this real?" She nodded. "Perfectly legal. Perfectly binding. Your mother insisted. If your father chose Mary or his pride over you, he loses everything. And, Linda, your mother left you something else too." She opened a small velvet pouch and pulled out a delicate gold locket. Inside was a photo of me as a child, in my mother's arms, and a tiny folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. "You are enough. Remember that." Angela gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. Rose just smiled sadly. "Your mother knew what she was doing." Suddenly, everything inside me hardened into resolve. For years, I'd watched Mary and Dad treat me like a footnote. Today, that ended. I'm not walking down that aisle alone, I said quietly. If my own father won't give me away, I'll choose someone who's always showed up for me. Rose O'Hara offered her arm. It would be my honor. Linda. But you know, Uncle Joe called. He's already in the church and furious with your father. He'd do it in a heartbeat. I smiled for the first time that day. Let's give the Carters something to talk about. As we drove back, Angela started making calls alerting the family lawyer to prepare the paperwork for a public reading, contacting Michael to explain the delay, and letting Uncle Joe know he was about to make family history. The church was abuzz when we returned, rumors were flying. And Mary stood by the altar, pale and fuming. I walked straight past her, holding my head high. Uncle Joe met me at the door, tears shining in his eyes. You look just like your mother. Kiddo. Let's make her proud. As I took his arm, the doors opened and the music swelled. I didn't look for my father. I didn't need to. For the first time, I was walking forward for me. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't over. There was a reckoning coming, one that would shake the Carter name and everything Mary and my father believed they controlled. And I was finally ready. I will never forget the look on my father's face as I entered the church. Uncle Joe's arms steady beneath mine. There were gasps from the front rows, my aunts and cousins. Even old Mrs. Gallagher from next door, clutching her rosary in shock. For a split second, my father's expression flickered relief. Then confusion. Then something like embarrassment, as he realized the entire family was watching him stand alone at the back of the sanctuary. Mary stood rigid at the side of the altar, dressed in navy silk, lips pressed tight. I caught her eyes. She looked away first, the ceremony itself blurred by in a haze. I remember Michael's trembling hands as he slipped the ring onto my finger, the gentle squeeze from Uncle Joe before he stepped aside, the whisper from Rose, "Your mother would be proud." The vows echoed in the vaulted ceiling, each word heavy with everything I'd survived to get here. When the ceremony ended, the air seemed to change. I could sense the tension building, like a storm about to break. In the narthex, as guests milled around for photos and congratulations, Rose O'Hara, the family lawyer, arrived with her briefcase and her usual air of quiet authority. She cleared her throat, and, in the old Carter tradition, called for a family meeting right then and there. In the church social hall, everyone filed in, aunts, uncles, cousins, even Mary's law school friends, who looked uncomfortable in the pews. My father stood at the edge, jaw clenched, arms folded. Mary clung to his side, eyes darting nervously between the adults. Rose addressed the room, voice clear and steady. As some of you know, Mrs. Nora Carter left a revised testament in her last year. And as her executor, it is my duty to read it today. This was her wish to be read only if certain conditions were met. She paused for effect, letting the room settle. In the event that Thomas Carter fails to attend the wedding ceremony of his eldest daughter, Linda Carter, the Carter home, all trust assets, and the family heirlooms shall pass exclusively to Linda. If Mr. Carter is present and fulfills his role, the estate is to be divided equally between both daughters. This codicil is legally binding. The silence was absolute. My father's face turned ashen, then purple. Mary looked as though she might faint. He tried to keep his composure. But the words tumbled out. This is ridiculous. Nora never would have. This is some trick. I built that house. I built this family. Rose didn't flinch. Your late wife left instructions with my office and the county courthouse. The documents are ironclad. There are witnesses, including Mrs. O'Hara and myself. The bank has already been notified. Mary exploded. You mean to tell me all this, everything goes to her, over a stupid wedding, because you couldn't be bothered to show up? Her voice trembled with fury and disbelief. I finally spoke. My voice steady but cold. Mary. Because family is supposed to show up when it matters. You always thought you could take whatever you wanted. As long as Dad backed you up. Not today. My father stepped forward, trying to regain the room. His tone dripping with that old Carter arrogance. You think you can shame me into this? You've always been weak. Linda. Always looking for someone to hand you life on a platter. I gave you everything. And now you want to tear this family apart for what revenge? I stared at him, feeling decades of pain crystallize into one hard, shining truth. You didn't give me everything. You taught me exactly what not to be. Mary hissed, loud enough for everyone to hear. This isn't over. You think you're better than me. Dad will fight this. You'll lose. But Rose O'Hara was ready. She pulled out a folder and handed it to my father. You're welcome to try, Mr. Carter. But as of this moment, the Carter house and all accounts are frozen, pending transfer. It's done. The rest of the room shifted. Whispers buzzed. Rose, eyes bright, squeezed my hand under the table. Angela hugged me, her voice low. You did it. Lynn. You finally broke the cycle. In that moment, it wasn't about the money or even the house. It was about finally being seen, being chosen, being enough. And then, just as I thought the dust was settling, Uncle Joe cleared his throat. There's something else. Linda. Your mother's safety deposit box. She left it for you alone. We should go together after the reception. The family was stunned into silence. Even Mary looked genuinely shaken. My father slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him as he realized the game was truly over. Just then, I looked up and caught the eyes of every woman in that room who had ever swallowed her own pain to keep the family peace. Some nodded. A few wiped tears. I felt their quiet support fill the space around me. And in that moment, as the Carters watched their dynasty slip away not to the perfect daughter, but to the one they'd always overlooked, I realized this was just the beginning. Because what I found in that safety deposit box would change everything. Again. It was late afternoon by the time the last of the guests drifted out of the church hall. Voices trailing into the cool Minneapolis air. The sky was streaked gold and pink. And for the first time in years, I felt light, free from the weight I'd carried my entire life. Michael held my hand as we walked to his car, our small circle of friends and family trailing behind us. Uncle Joe, Angela, and Rose lingered, their faces reflecting pride and relief. After the commotion of the family meeting, Rose O'Hara met me at her office to retrieve the key to my mother's safety deposit box. Uncle Joe drove, silent and steady, as always. I stared out the window, the city blurring past, my mind whirling with possibilities. What could my mother have left behind that Rose believed was even more important than the house? The bank was quiet that Saturday evening. The manager escorted us to a small private room and placed the slim metal box on the table. My hands shook as I lifted the lid. Inside, I found photographs, old, black and white snapshots of my mother as a girl, of her wedding day, of me as a baby in her arms. There were love letters from my father, written before life had hardened him, and one final envelope with my name on it. I opened it and read my mother's words, written in a looping script I hadn't seen in years. Linda, if you are reading this, you have survived more than any daughter should. You have known loneliness, but I pray you never let it make you bitter. Please use what I leave behind to build a life you are proud of. Help others if you can. But remember, being loved isn't the same as being chosen. Don't ever accept less than both. All my love. Mom. Beneath the letter was a simple gold wedding band, her own. I slipped it on my finger beside my new ring, feeling a warmth bloom in my chest that no money or house could match. When I walked back outside, the sun was setting over the city. For the first time, I truly felt like a Carter, not because of what I'd inherited, but because I had finally reclaimed my place on my own terms. That evening, Michael and I returned to our small apartment instead of the family house. We ordered takeout, sat cross-legged on the living room floor, and watched the light fade. There were no grand celebrations, just quiet, laughter, and relief. For the first time, I felt seen, not as the shadow daughter or the family's afterthought, but as myself. Word of what happened at the wedding spread quickly through the family. Some called to offer support. Others, including Mary and my father, stayed silent. I learned later that Dad tried to contest the will, but the courts upheld my mother's wishes. Mary left for the East Coast, her pride wounded but her ambition undimmed. For a long time, we didn't speak. When she finally called months later, her voice was subdued. I guess we both learned something about family. That was all she said before hanging up. But it was enough for me to know she would survive. 2. The old Carter house became mine. But I didn't rush to move in. Instead, I opened its doors to the people who had always supported me: Rose, Angela, Uncle Joe, and even a few cousins who had quietly cheered for me through the years. We rebuilt old connections, repainted walls, let in fresh air and new memories. Sometimes I visit my mother's grave and tell her about the day I finally stood up for myself. I like to think she'd be proud, not because of the inheritance, but because I finally understood what real family means. The lesson I carry with me, and that I want you to remember, is this: sometimes, your true family isn't the one you're born with, but the people who show up when it matters. Love is not just about blood or history, but about presence, kindness, and respect. Never let anyone, parent, sibling, or spouse convince you that you deserve less. Looking back, I don't regret a thing, not even the pain. It taught me resilience, compassion, and most of all, the value of standing up for myself. When you finally claim your own worth, you change the story for everyone who comes after you. So if you're listening now, and you've ever felt small or invisible in your own family, let my story remind you, you are enough. You are worthy of love and loyalty. And sometimes, walking away from those who hurt you is the bravest thing you can do. Before I go, I have a favor to ask you. If you've ever witnessed or experienced an injustice like mine, please share your story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more shocking, true family dramas, the kinds of stories families never want you to hear. And with that, my story for now comes to a close. But your story, your healing, And your fight for respect may be just beginning.